Hi, I'm Lucy Paget, and I want to share with you about a workshop that I'll be teaching, or you can catch the replay of writing the words that want to be written and getting unstuck. So, we're often told in writing programs that we need to brainstorm, mind map, create a flow. There's so many methods of getting the plot down of what we want to write ahead of time. For some people that works, for some people that doesn't work. I'm one of the people that does not work for. And so I've created a different method, and I've identified some of the places where people like me get stuck, and I'm going to teach the ways of navigating around these obstacles in this workshop. So in this conversation, I just wanted to share with you some of the ways in which we can get stuck so that you can look out for those things in yourself and navigate through them. So, one of the first things, story seeds start in the dark. By that, I mean we have a blank page. We have, even before we have a concrete idea, maybe we have a burning desire to write something, to create something, and we don't know exactly what it is. And so we have to start with nothing. And so that over and over again, page after page, is something that needs to be confronted, because as a story starts to come through, it doesn't usually lay itself all out. But when we can look at, I'm just going to give the metaphor of a blank page. When we can look into the creative space, the darkness, and dwell in there a while, stuff will come through. And what comes through is extraordinary. And every time, hundreds of times, thousands of times probably, I think I'm going to fail, and I never do. And so this is something that I want to share in the workshop, and ways of working through this. Getting stopped before we start is another big, oh my goodness, a big oh my goodness. So self-doubt or other people's voices that aren't supportive, so external doubt, feeling like your writing isn't worthy, that like, oh, there's more important things, or they're more important, that thing is more important. And so never actually giving the time. That's a great way to get stopped before you start. So we'll look at that. And then here's a big one, over attachment to ideas, the kind of rigidity of like, oh, I've got this idea and I'm going to stick to it, or the fear of not having another idea, so that you're like holding on to this thing in case there's nothing else, when actually, usually what comes through first, second, third iteration is like a shell that's going to actually open and show you something on the inside. And then it's going to open again and show you something else. And you might find yourself moving in different directions than what you had originally thought. So, for example, the first book that I wrote, I was really certain that the main character was this angel, and his fatal flaw was that he had lost inspiration. He could no longer reach for awe. And so I wrote this, there's so much of the story, thousands of words of the story around him. And then I discovered that actually he wasn't the main character, he was a side character. And when I started writing differently and a different main character came through, the story was so much sweeter. And this angel is just one of those really important characters that deserves an Oscar for their supportive role. And then the main character, I thought she was one age, and then actually I discovered she's totally a different age. And so rewrote the story from in a very different age perspective. Okay, then let's move on to one more, nervous system hijack. The stuff of our past comes in ways that we don't necessarily know that it's actually with us right now. We think sometimes in present time that we're bored, or our brains become foggy, or we just can't get through something because it's just not the right time, or because we're not good at something. Well, guess what? That's not always the case. Sometimes stuff of the past is just right here with us. And when we realize that actually there's just something from our past, an old story of the past, an old trauma that's here, we can move it to the side and we can move forwards. This is really, really important. Lastly, I think this was my biggest aha in writing, was not reaching for joy. When you're writing a bigger story, it takes this kind of like capacity to move forwards and forwards and forwards and forwards, this momentum. And the times where I've got stuck for longest, and sometimes I've had periods of like a year, a couple of years in writing, and I've written for most of my life, but very, very seriously written for the last 10 years. And I probably would have very seriously written for the last 20 years, except a big chunk of that was the place of getting stuck, getting hijacked. One of the big parts was not being in joy in my writing, thinking I had to write something a different way because it seemed like the right thing to do. And there's two parts to this. One, I actually got some feedback from an editor once. I really excitedly took some pages of writing. I was just like, oh my gosh, my heart was just like so happy. I had this story, and the same story with The Old Angel. And I took it to this writer in residence at a place, and she got out her red pen, she marked it up, and I was happy with that because I wanted feedback. And then she started to tell me all the places I had gone wrong, and that I had to go back and I had to clean up the grammar, clean up the grammar, clean up the grammar, clean up the grammar. And so I was like, oh, okay, thank you. And I took my writing and I started to do that, and I just got stuck. It just sucked the joy out of my writing. But I thought I had to do that. And that time, it got me stuck for a few months. And then I was like, no, that's not my way. I'm going to come in and fix this stuff later. And so I figured it out in a few months. At that time actually wasn't that bad. But I realized how dangerous that advice was because it stopped me. And I moved through it because I could see that wasn't the right advice. And in a very similar vein, the same theme of not reaching for joy, I have a habit of wanting to do things right and to write the right way, for my writing to be good writing. And there's elements of that that are good and bad. And I have found myself plodding through elements of like chapters where I'm like, oh, I should write this. Oh, I should write more of a description of this. And just being like, oh, I'm bored. And then when I get bored, I get tired, until I catch myself and realize, oh no, that's not the right way. And for me, I tend to be more poetic. And so I'll put fragments, fractals and pieces and put them very lyrically. The big chapters of explanation of things, like that's not my way, it might be your way. Anyhow, we need to find what the right way for you is. And I'm pretty good at helping people to navigate, to find that right way. I would say it's one of my special gifts that when somebody reads me a piece of their writing, I'm like, oh, try this, to find that way, like flowing down a river, and there might be different obstacles for different people. Some of us want the tumultuous path. Some of us want the easy meandering stream. Some of us want to walk along the riverbank and walk through the long grasses. We just need to find the right way. And that's what this workshop is all about. So come join me in a live workshop or pick up the recording and let me know how it goes for you. I am here to help. Writing is my path. And it's a really beautiful one, but it requires support and friendship and collaboration along the way, because it can be lonely, and trying to do it all yourself. Well, let's add that as the sixth obstacle. And let's try and move those so we can write the words that are wanting to come through.